Hey, everybody. Again, I'm Robert Barry Fleming, Executive Artistic Director at Actors Theater, and I have got two of my very favorite artists and friends, Sean and Abigail Benson here. Yay!
Yes!
Welcome. Happy Friday. How are you guys?
Oh man, it's a good day. We're
How's
doing well
Dayton?
today. Yeah. How are you?
I am so good because I'm getting to spend some time with you. That I get a half hour to just jaw with you makes me really excited.
I feel the
Because now I get to ask you a million things that I've been wanting to ask you and just we never had time. And the first, I'm going to jump in because the first thing is, how did you meet?
Aw.
How did you meet?
Well,
Well.
we met at a party in Queens, and then we were in a pickup band together for a little bit, but we'd never been alone in the same room. And then we decided we were going to start our own band, and our first rehearsal became our first date. And then 3 weeks later, we were married.
Are you kidding me?
And that was 13 years ago now.
You just answered my first three questions. That's so bad. Bad ASS? I don't know if I can say that on the air. That is awesome. So your first creation, you already were thinking about working as creative artists as love was blooming.
It's inseparable. It's one story for Sean and I, and we started writing us music together on that first night. And like I kind of knew, like everybody left, because it was the band was supposed to not just be Sean and I, but like I like lingered, and like one by one everybody left, and then I was like there. And,
man.
And he like wasn't making a move, and I was like, I think I was just used to like.
Well, you're gorgeous, so everybody wants.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
They're pursuing.
Yeah.
So what is wrong with this dude not making a move?
But also, so I like sealed the deal.
Nice.
I didn't know at the beginning of the band rehearsal whether she was still with her boyfriend or not, and it turns out she wasn't. But I also when she first got there, I was like, wow, you look really fancy. And I realized that she was just wearing her entirely normal stuff. And I had revealed that
wow.
I was her. And I called the next day. I called one of my best friends, and I was like, Douglas, I'm screwed. I think I've found my person, and either I get to spend my life with her, or I get to spend my life heartbroken. And
wow.
And I couldn't imagine that it wouldn't end. And I don't know. And so it was 3 weeks of joy and terror and angst until then we realized we both felt the same way. We got secretly married right away. And then once we realized that we felt this way about each other and that we both wanted to spend our lives together, then I feel like we could handle getting to really know each other. It
is not a surprising story because I'm going to jump to my fourth question. Welcome to Actors Theater Direct and Facebook Live. You all, this project, the Keep Going song, a New York Times Critics Pick, the way that this thing came together just has been so deeply inspiring to me, and it made me want to ask this question about what's the relationship between chaos, inspiration, the hustle, and inspiration when you are creating work, and particularly for this process, because we have been in such an amazing seminal moment in American and world history, and somehow you all have continued to embody something about that. And so what is that relationship when you're creating, when you're living, when you're making work, and particularly this work?
Wow, thank you, Robert. Everything that we do, we're starting to be more open about this, but is coming from a place of prayerfulness. It's coming from a place of prayer, right? And and that means what it means to us weird Jew-esque paganista Lutheran evangelical, you know, like we are what we are. But we are trying to be open and raw about wherever we actually are, but in the name of transformation, right? So going into the place of the pain, the despair, the joy, whatever it might be that day, and trying to sort of metabolize it in such a way that it can be offered without conclusion, without message, you know, without tidiness, but with having gone through the sort of machine of our shared love, in hopes that it can be an offering to each other, to whoever may listen, to ourselves. And so that process of trying to connect honestly to where we are in the moment, in a day, in the mundane, and reinterpret it together into some kind of messy gift. That's the work that we try to do, and fail and try and fail and try and fail. And the Keep Going song, I think, is a really you really see us grappling, I think, or when I watch it now or listen, I remember, I feel it as an artifact of that moment very deeply. And I'm so grateful that we have an artifact of that moment, and watching us go from shock to feeling over and over we thought we had our feet under us as people, as citizens, as parents, and as artists in the process. And over again, the world said, not so fast, not so fast, you know? So it was a great unclenching thing of control, a release of control, that I'd say was painful, the way unclenching a tight muscle is painful. But also very, in the end, for me, or no, there is no end, but helpful for me as a human being trying to keep on at this time.
It's I think one of the gifts of this moment is it's really helped to unshackle our hearts from a lot of the darker sides of our ambition. You know, like everything was in ruins anyway. And I feel like we've been for years been trying to cultivate the part of ourselves which was not fed by that beast, you know, but it was still there, you know, and like, and you see someone else get the award or get the spot, you're like, hey, I wanted that, you know. And so there was a gift in it just all being in shambles, you know. There was like nothing to be ambitious for in that moment, which gave extra clarity to that which we're actually wanting to do. And I think with the Keep Going song, from that space, we just decided, like, well, what would we actually want to do? What do we want to spend these couple of months working on? And it was also amazing just doing it on our little room in Dayton, Ohio, that we could just try. We could just do something and then just see it and see how it made us feel. But we really weren't sure at all, other than knowing that like it made, like we liked it. We really had no idea how it would feel for anyone else, when we did it. And I think like that is the other part of the gift of this is the frame is so intimate, you know, that it's like just straight into your laptop or your TV in your own home. That we felt like, given that, we could sort of do whatever we wanted, so long as we felt like we were being honest and vulnerable about ourselves. And I think that that's the other thing that's led us towards this kind of art that we like to make, is the only thing that's consistently made us feel crappy after a show is if we felt like we were like putting on airs, you know, or like not being honest about ourselves, or about, you know, not like trying to be cool, or, you know, anything like that. That's the thing after the show where it makes us feel like crap. And so that's just like, so then I feel like the last 10 years of our artistic process has been this one of like trying to cultivate comfort in vulnerability, and trying to see vulnerability as a route to generosity, I guess. And I feel like so long as we are approaching it that way, then the art can be a success or a failure. It can be received how it is, but I will still feel like I showed up for it.
We're having a conversation with Abigail and Sean Bengtson, the creators of the extraordinary Keep Going song. If you have questions, please put them down in the comment section. I would covet the whole time, but I want to make sure you all have time to ask questions too. And if you feel so moved, there's a donate button somewhere on your device, either in the comment section or somewhere. Feel free to share in that way too. Actors Theater Direct is so inspired and so grateful for your creativity, Sean and Abigail. And I continue to wonder and talk about shock and awe, the way that your authenticity and the hybridity of your identities and your creative process continue to just inspire me as you worked on Where the Mountain Meets the Sea, and then to get the chance to see you create this as well has been such a growth learning experience for me. And as you say, we're also hybridized. It's like, I'm a Black queer middle-aged person who went to a predominantly Jewish school in Philadelphia for undergrad as a formative experience at Temple. And it's like the ways that we meet in art and in life, you just seem to make happen in the space of creation. How do you define your own sense of personal activism, and how does that collaboration with an oral landscape intersect with this extraordinary visual imagery that also accompanies this story, shepherded also by Ian Kagi, I guess it's Kagi or Kagi. Can you just talk about how those things come together? Because they seem disparate, and yet in your hands, they're so whole.
Wow. Oh, thank you. I feel like with the visuals, we had zero experience with any of that before we started this project. And I think like our guiding principle was just like what would feel nice to do. And I feel like there's also such license in this moment when we're all in Zoom land, and we're all, I feel like it's okay for it to look homemade, which made it okay for us to just try things. And so we would just like, while we were listening through, we would just be like, oh, what if we saw this thing? And then we would just like run out into the backyard or whatever with our phones and just like record a little bit of it. Or there would be a couple of moments where like the video like glitched or something. And so we would have to replace it with something. And we were like, oh, well, what would have to go here? And we'd try something and think like, oh, well, that was kind of interesting. And then like follow it through the rest of the song. But it was really entirely just discovering it as we went along, and just trying to put it in, take space, come back, and see if it still felt good to us the next time.
Mm-hmm. The question around personal activism is such a profound one that I think is it's a living question, you know, for us.
Yeah.
And so I really don't know. You know, I really don't know, and I am glad, and I am happy for the not knowing, because I think earlier in my life as a younger artist there were times that I felt clear about my mission and what I was here to do, and the older I get the less I am certain of, and I feel that one thing I know about us, or about myself, I'll say, is that the work is inward for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's so of every artist or every person. And of course there's a balance, but the work, the dismantling, the fight goes first within me. And then if I can emerge from that effort with some pleasure, with some joy to offer you, that brings me joy too. So and it was interesting too, I have to say, because what you see is us filming each other, right? So whenever it's just Sean, it's my perspective, or vice versa. So I think there's also great intimacy that the visuals exposed, because everything we make is in collaboration with each other. But I felt like even when it appears to me just me singing, it's Sean's perspective right there, right? And vice versa. So there's a wovenness to that I really like. And then Ian Kagi, yes, you mentioned him. When we were all done with the project, we sent it to him and said, can you make it sound a little better? And he did. And yes. He did.
Wow. You know, you talk about the wovenness, and it's pretty stunning to kind of think of the penultimate part of that is that you have a son together who's going to have his 4th birthday very soon. Can you talk about the kind of intersection of family and faith and creating? Because that has such a wide scope and depth when it comes to thinking about the Bengsons.
We, you know, it really is. It's all one big messy package. You know, like it is the thing that was crazy to discover. You know, once we had a child, is then like the art is also directly what is buying him milk. You know, and like his little clothes, and it's also because we are both in pretty much everything that we do. It also meant that we really had to call in help from our community and our family. And we were incredibly lucky in that my baby sister, Emma, graduated from college when Louis was about 7 or 8 months old. And she moved in with us and she lived with us for almost 2 years. Well, and that was entirely how we did the show, is Emma and Louis and all of us would go into the theater together, and there would be a special room for them to play and hang out. And then we'd go home, and it was really bananas. And I think the other thing with it, which we're still reckoning with, is that theater, the theater system is not designed for working parents, you know? And so it was the other thing that's been really intense, is every time you're going into a project, it's with a whole new organization. And some organizations like Actors Theater of Louisville are absolutely just gorgeous. And really, I feel like you all are really building art and building community that is like from the human, like starting with like the needs of our community and our humans, which therefore of course means the needs of our children.
Yes.
But there's a lot of other theaters where we go in and they're like, oh no, their children aren't allowed. There have been theaters that have told us children aren't allowed on the campus except for a handoff, and so the battles that we have had over the past 4 years have been really intense, but things are starting to change, I feel like. And I feel like the nice thing also about being in an officially liberal community is it doesn't look good for those theaters when they're not, working for parents and caregivers. So I feel like everyone is wanting to turn over a new leaf. And that's my other hope with this moment too, is I feel like there's a lot about the theater industry that isn't great for the people who make it, and I'm hoping that we will really have the chance when it's coming back to maybe do some things a little better.
Yeah, Reed, I mean, you certainly have, but if anyone who's listening who hasn't read the incredible We See You, White American Theater list of demands that that incredible group of activists have written, it's speaking importantly and specifically to a new breaking through and recognition of Black artists in the theater, but it also is just a call for humanity across processes. And it was so thrilling to read those demands and say, my God, if those, what a vision of a better way to do this. It's thrilling.
Can you offer, what advice would you offer to musicians who are working remotely right now, who may not have access to classes or other resources? What would you offer them? There's something so holistic about the way that you talk about your art, you talk about your faith and your family. What could you offer to somebody who's asking a question about what they could do right now in quarantine this way?
Well, we might have different answers.
Yeah,
I
what
mean,
would you say?
I would think about dismantling the idea of what practice looks like, right? That to have a practice within your art doesn't have to look like any one thing. And I would emphasize the sacred nature of boredom when you are a creative person or in need to create. If you can cultivate a little bit of boredom in your life and not fill it, not move from that space, I would say that is almost always available to you. Boredom is almost always available. It's not as exceptionally busy human beings, but if you can go towards the part of you that says, I just have to go, I just have to continue, I just have to I have to get to my lesson, I have to improve, I must improve. What if instead you didn't? What would happen if this was as good as you got and instead you listened? What if part of your musicianship practice was a deep listening? These are the kinds of things that I have to ask myself.
And I think for folks who are writing and trying to figure out how to share their work, I feel like just make it. And I think it's a good moment, especially for folks trying to do like live streaming performances and things, just to lean into the reality of what it is, and you don't get the energy of a live performance over the computer screen, but you do really get intimacy, and you really, you get to see each other's homes. And I think that there's something really fascinating, like especially because so many of us are on Zoom meetings all day, to take that form and re-examine it, like it really is. There's something kind of that can be beautiful and surprising about taking it and using it for art. And I think like with music, it's just a long, hard haul. And, it really is really, there are some people whose stories are different, but it's pretty rare, and it does just take doing it and doing it and doing it. And I think, in thinking about ambition too, I think it's also a good moment to refocus and have like your goal be towards the thing that you want to do rather than the place that you want to reach, or even like the people that you want to be hearing it. It's like, what if I was doing it every day? Would my life feel fulfilled? And I think that can be a broader and more, particularly in a moment like this when you can't be performing for folks except over the computer anyways, to really focus back in. And what about this calls me? Is it the writing? Is it interpreting,
Mm-hmm. It's I knew this was going to go entirely too fast, so I've already gotten the 5-minute warning. So I'm going to go to my last question. We're going to apparently have to do this 7 more times because I have so many other questions, but I'm going to wind it up as I've been directed. Can you talk about what it's like to create your partner, and what that is? What that gives you and how that feeds you, and just what is that like? What do you get from Abigail? What do you get from Sean when you create?
It's the best.
It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. I mean, it's amazing. It's I mean, when Sean was saying that thing, like the thing that feels terrible is we do a show, we feel like we were cool, or we like put on a thing, and so we go like, because people accuse us of cool so often. But like, right?
Me too.
That's really cool. But that thing, I mean, and I think so much of that has to do with being, if you're like at a party, at like a dinner party, and your partner says something like, you kind of fudge a story. Like you're kind of telling the true version of the story, but your partner knows the real version of the story, and they're like, interesting. Or you exaggerate, or you whatever. Like that thing where you're not quite yourself, and then this person who is their own whole person and also a mirror into your own integrity, it witnesses that. Like, that does something to you. And I feel like that has really entered our creative life, is like, oh, really? Oh, is that so? He can tell if I'm forcing or pushing and lying, and doesn't mean we don't do it, but it means we have someone to say, is that really what you mean? And but it's joyful and it's rigorous and vigorous, and we get pissed about I'm right, and it's joyful.
Yeah, it really is. We really like everything is both of us. We both do music, we both do lyrics. It's like all, like a seed will usually will come from one of us, but then it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's 6:31, you guys. Facebook is gonna shut us right off.
They're gonna shut us down. I'm just gonna say, hey y'all. Get your virtual tickets for the Keep Going song at actorstheater.org. You can get this album on Apple Music for purchase, Spotify to stream. The show streams through October 8th. Thank you, Abigail and Sean, so much. Love you guys.
Thank you for kicking our asses and asking us to do this. Yes. I love you so much. I'll do anything you ask for the rest of my life.
Love you guys. Thanks, y'all, for joining us. We'll see you next time.